Michigan won the national championship because they looked that good in November. Seriously, that was the analysis we had after the Players era. They looked like the best team, and they were going to steamroll everyone. And turns out that was true. Like they just steamrolled everybody through the tournament. This was one of the most disrespectful championship runs I've seen in a long time. So congrats to Michigan. Congrats to everybody who made the call in November, and then congrats to everybody for overthinking it for the next 4 to 5 months. But we've got the championship to break down, bracket challenge winner to the crown, some transfer portal that's already flipping college basketball upside down, and some coaching news. So let's wrap this season up and figure out who's actually built for next year. This is Bench Points.
So I think the Michigan's dominance, it's something that we've seen glimpses of all year, but I'm just disappointed in Arizona's lack of contention to overthrow that title.
It's rough. That was bad. Like me and you were on here, we took Arizona because we thought the depth would be an issue, but what like the craziest stat from that whole Michigan Arizona game was when Bradley was on the floor, his plus minus was +1, and after that it was just terrible. And like that's absolutely crazy to me that a couple of those fouls were idiotic, and then on his part, and then a couple of them were super cheap, super touch fouls that shouldn't have been called, and that really changed the game with him being on the bench and not, because with him not on the bench, they're winning the game. It's just wild to me that one player flipped that game with those two ultra mega talented teams going at it, that one guy really had that much of a impact. I would have thought at that level, one guy, especially not like a guy that you're like, it's not a superstar NBA player, have that much of an impact.
Yeah, if we're talking about the Arizona Michigan game, the one thing I'll note is Arizona looked like Clemson against McNeese last year. It's the best comparison I can make. It was the most timid I've ever seen a team play, and this is like after. I mean, they kind of got slapped in the mouth a little bit by Purdue in the first half from the week before, and then came out and just looked like Arizona again. And then they looked like the first half team against Purdue for 44 minutes, and they were wide-eyed. They were taking threes right off the bat. None of it made sense. Toby Awaka took a three.
Yeah.
And that just reeked of desperation. Credit to Michigan, because I mean, I think we were all in the camp that whoever won that game was winning the national title. Now, UConn put up a hell of a fight. They were outclassed. It was probably like, I admit I didn't watch this game because I was rooting for the refs. But then this morning, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just watch it on a quick run. The shooting was terrible. This was just a horrible national championship game. And then I get, like, I've got opinions on this Michigan team and like how it was built and the tampering and things like that, and all the rumors around Dusty May, like in the handshake lines and all that. It is what it is, right? He's got 4 starters from different Big Ten schools that aren't his own. But this is the portal era, and this is the way college basketball is. I saw a bunch of things. It's like, is this the best team we've seen in 20 years? No, stop that. Is this the most dominant tournament run? No, stop that. UConn 2024, that was the most dominant I've ever seen a tournament run in my entire life. And it's probably the most dominant I will ever see a tournament run in my entire life. And UConn kind of followed the blueprint a little bit that Purdue used when they beat them in the Big Ten tournament championship. Was they kind of played a little bit of bully ball with them. They started getting some fouls called, and they started getting in some trouble, and then they weren't making shots. And that's going to bury you no matter what. But, you know, like what you guys said before, congrats to Michigan. You know, it's the new modern era of college basketball, and Dusty May's proven that it works.
Yeah, from the championship game standpoint, push back a little bit on the dominant run. Like, one, they put up unreal amount of points in every game, and were blowing teams out of the water at every stage except for the championship game. But even in this championship game, they hit 2 threes. They beat Arizona at Arizona's UConn, like, by just going to the hole and being stronger. I mean, Yaxel was clearly off, but he still ends up with 13. He's over 5 from deep. But like, Elliot Cano, man, talk about a guy that a year flipped the perception of him. He obviously earned the most outstanding player of the Final Four championship. Like, he was absolutely that dominant with everything he was doing. And I mean, he led the team to score in the championship game and did a lot of really good things, drew a lot of fouls, played very good defense, made it really hard on Ball and Demery. But I mean, UConn, it feels like this happens in every championship game that they're in, their Final Four game. As soon as they get to the football stadiums, there's one team that can't hit for at least 30 minutes of the game. And unfortunately, that was UConn, and they just didn't have anything to do, like to come back after they were shooting so poorly for a long time. I mean, I think it took halfway through the second half where they had like two or three threes. Like it was ugly. Terrace Reed, he did everything he could, but he had so much size and so much strength going against him. There really wasn't much for him to do. Like that Mara matchup was terrible for him. He was having to shoot these crazy hook shots where he was able to power through most of other teams, and he just couldn't really get it through Mara. And then I don't know. It was a terrible game to watch because it felt like as soon as Michigan got that double-digit lead, it was done. Like the first 3 or 4 possessions, really through the first media timeout, UConn's offense looked lost. They were just running around, scrambling, switching spots, and hoping to find something. Hurley finally got him settled down, and they made a little bit of a run. And it looked like his blueprint, his game plan was, we're not going to give them stay close by not giving up transition. So when we're running offense, we're running 20 seconds off this clock before we really even look for a shot, unless we have something easy. It slowed the game down, and so you ended up with 130 points. All it did was took possessions out of their hands when they needed more at the end of the game. That's probably the same game plan I would have run, but Silas and solo ball being in foul trouble just shot themselves in the foot with that. Like it was brutal.
Yeah, that strategy only works when you're scoring. And it doesn't have to be the 3 ball, and it felt like they were really relying on just chucking up threes, even though they were shooting sub 30%.
Yeah,
just wasn't working. I mean, the teams that beat Michigan this year, they did it a very similar way. They slowed the game down, or they just went nuclear from 3, and UConn tried both, and neither one of them worked. So
but it felt like Michigan blocked every other shot they had.
Yeah.
I mean, they ended up with 6 blocks, which is a good amount, but it felt like there was 200 of them.
It really did.
It was there for a minute. I was like, I don't know if UConn's going to be able to lay one in. It was just everything. It felt like was going up, and because the rest of the game they played them fairly even. Like UConn out rebounds them, loses the turnover battle by 1, has more assists, and they just couldn't put it in the basket. I mean, they 31% from the floor for the game, 27 from deep. It just nothing went well. Really, nothing offensively went well in this game for either team.
Missed 9 free throws.
Yeah, those are brutal. But this it just felt like the Arizona Michigan game was such a letdown after all the hype that this game just wasn't ever going to be fun to watch. Because like you built that game up so much because you had these 2 juggernauts going at it, and that ended up being like a 30-point game. It looked like Arizona looked like Tennessee out there, and it was just brutal.
I mean, I feel like Terrace Reed gave it all he got.
Yeah,
kind of hate it for him. It kind of bad luck.
Talk about one of the most unlucky guys ever. It's out there like crazy right now, but my guy played for both these teams, 2 years for both these teams, and 3 of the 4 years that he played, the team he wasn't on won the championship. Like UConn goes back to back after he leaves, and then or before while he's at Michigan, and then he leaves to go to UConn, and then Florida and Michigan win it. Like that's just highly unfortunate for him. It's gotta suck.
It is shocking to me. I don't think I realized this until you mentioned it, Jake, but like that Michigan only had 2 threes.
Yeah.
2. They didn't make one in the first half. They were 0 for the world in the first half.
Yeah, one of their threes was that dagger at the end of the game that put them back up 9.
Yeah. I think that was McKinney that hit that little step out. After UConn makes that incredible steal, like lays it, like throws it behind him, and they try to lay it up twice, miss it, come down, and McKinney hits that step back, and it's just like that's
Yeah, it went from a potential 4-point game to a 9-point game, and the game was over.
Yeah, Cadeau hit the only other one. Part of the reason this game was so not fun to watch was it was such a one-on-one like solo battle. Like there was a total of 16 assists in this game, and these teams have been moving the ball and running and gutting. I can only remember one oop to Mara making it, and like those seemed like they were happening 17 times a game. And every other game, like it was a very clunky game, and a lot of that has to do with the refs, the way the refs were calling it. There was zero flow built in the first 12 minutes, and it just never found its feet again. Because at that point, you had like I think Yaxel had 2 fouls in the first like minute of the game. Solo Ball was in foul trouble immediately, and so was Demery, and I think all the big guys in the first half for Michigan had 2 fouls. So like it was just a very clunky game. It didn't get any flow. It was unfortunate, really, for anybody watching it that wasn't a fan of Michigan or UConn.
Yeah, I genuinely disliked both teams by the end of the season. So it was like I was rooting for the refs, and my God, did they have a show?
Yeah, got some airtime. But I mean, you kind of hinted at this earlier, Sam. What do we think about the all transfer starting lineup and two guys that were at Michigan from the time they started playing basketball, winning this team? Like,
And
does
they
that
don't
take into
start.
this team? Well, yeah, it's just like not that like you haven't won a championship in 30 plus years. It's got to feel good to win one, but you can't tell me it doesn't suck just a little bit that like you didn't get to know any of these guys or whatever. Like like weren't cheering for them. It would have been to me. It would have felt so much better if, like last year, if this whole team was on last year's team and they missed it, they failed or whatever. You come back and you win it, and you feel a bit better because right now, like 90% of Michigan's fan base probably didn't know who Yaxel Lindenberg was until he showed
Right.
up on campus after football season, or Ade Mara. I mean, or Cadeau. I don't know. That part sucks. I hate to see that part of college basketball go away. I'm not like yelling and screaming that the transfer portal is evil and blah 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 all that. It just sucks that like it seems to me that the route to getting your best teams is just going out there and buying a free agent team.
Yeah. How deep's your pocket, right? So it's like one of those, it's like we talked about it before. It's a built versus bought mentality, right? And this is a bought team, and no insult or anything like that to Michigan fans. Hell, IU football did it. Like with that's the reality of the college sports landscape. Is IU 4 or 5 years ago had 17 fans in the crowd, and we're the worst college football program in the history of anything. And they get a coach who's got some deep pockets with some deep boosters and things like that. And you bring in 24, 25-year-old guys in their 5th and 6th year of college sports, and they're adults, and they string together an amazing season, undefeated season, win a national championship, first time ever for IU, right? Now, fast forward to Michigan basketball. None of these guys played for Michigan. The guys that do play for Michigan sat the bench most of the season, and half these guys played for other Big Ten schools. And so it's just like, it is a bought team. For me, like, again, it's like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? So like, I'm gonna sit here and say, like, I love built teams. I love built rosters. Like, you have seniors that graduated with your program, because hell, that's what I get to watch every year, right? I don't have a national title to celebrate. So yeah, it would be awesome if I found out tomorrow that Flory Benunga was going to be a Purdue Boilermaker next year, or we have some guy in the transfer portal who's on his 17th year of college basketball and is an absolute stud and is going to go out and put up 20 points and 11 rebounds a game. That'd be fantastic. I don't know who the hell he is. I haven't watched him. I probably watched him because I watch a lot of college basketball, but it's like my team's not getting those guys. So of course I hate it. Right. But it's just the landscape of college sports. It's just like there is no built teams anymore.
Yeah,
And
like,
coaches that continue to ride that think that they're going to like get these under recruited guys and run them through their program for 4 years and then like maybe piece together a national title team out of that are just fooling themselves, because Dusty May and Kurt Signetti over the course of the last calendar year have proved that the old model just doesn't work, and that with this new model is successful and can win you national championships, even with schools that are historically not in the mix.
and it's not just the transfer portal. Like if you could back it up to the Final Four, I think right. So you had Michigan that was pretty much all transfers, and McKinney was the only freshman. But it's a bunch of 1 year dudes. Like Arizona was starting 3 freshmen or had 3 freshmen going, and a couple of transfers come in or whatever that had been there for like 2 years. But Illinois is pretty much a brand new team minus one guy or two. So, and then like UConn had probably the most senior laden team, but you still Demery and came in and played a big chunk of the minutes, and Malachi Smith was a Dayton transfer. Like key pieces, and Mullins was a 1 year guy. It's not just the transfer portal. It's like you've got this nasty mix of the portal and superstar freshmen, and you've got to have a handful of these 1 year guys that to win a championship. There's no team loyal. Like, not loyalty is not the right word, but like like you don't get to, like, part of growing up. I was a huge JJ Redick fan. You got to watch him for 4 years and like really become a fan of his and stuff. Like, you don't have guys like that anymore, because if they're
Nope.
around for 4 years, so they're not that good. Like, it's just, that's the unfortunate truth.
And then we all get to make fun of him, right? Like how many Braden Smith highlights you see was like, hasn't he been in college basketball for 7 years? And like Aaron Kraft was in college basketball for Ohio State for 38 years.
Aaron Kraft left with an MD.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the reality of the sport now. It's just like you see a 4-year guy and you're like, Jesus Christ, does he have kids? Like, does he have an AARP card? Like, why hasn't he gone pro? So that's
in the case of Chad Baker Mazara. Did he take his birth certificate?
Yeah, is he 32? No.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know how exactly I feel about it yet, because I mean, if Tennessee did it, would I be celebrating this like crazy? Yeah, you know what? I'd say build statues of all 5 of them and put their whatever school they came from, put it really small on that statue, be like, with a thank you, and then that school, whatever. I'm going to be ecstatic about the championship, but you can't tell me it wouldn't feel better to have those guys come in as freshmen. Like, if Purdue would have done it this year, even if it's not in Indianapolis, say it was in Arizona or Vegas or wherever, that would be, like, that's legend status. Like, I don't think you're going to get legend status players anymore. It'll be very rare, I think, that you get these legend status guys that come in as freshmen and bring your school a championship, like, or 2 or something like that. Like, it's because, like, even the UConn, like, I mean, this is a dynasty, whether you want it to be or not. Being in 3 of the last 4 championship games, but each team was completely different. I think the only guy that was consistent was Caravan.
Yeah.
After that, like, almost every other roster spot was completely different each time. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's just it's crazy how quickly this has changed.
Yeah.
Like, how fast that rule changed everything. And then you add NIL on top of it. So it's just insane.
Yeah. And teams, to that point, Jake, teams need to get kind of with the program or get left behind.
Yeah.
That's just the sad reality of it. Until they create some like rules around contracts with players and transfer limits and things like that, it's just going to be a roller coaster for a while.
Supposedly that executive order Trump signed is supposed to, I don't know exactly what it does, but from what I understand, it's 5 years, 5 years to play for and 1 free transfer inside of it. So I don't know if that's going to stand up and do anything.
Who knows?
Yeah, because whatever. There's a lot of implications there that we're yet to figure out. But from a tournament perspective, as a whole, how did y'all end up feeling about this one?
It was an enjoyable tournament. Chalky at times, surprises at times. You got a little healthy mix of both. But at the end of the day, a lot of your best teams were still in it. I mean, your surprises were there, either like your Iowas, your Texas teams.
Florida.
You had some like 6s that put up a good fight. Cough, cough, Tennessee.
Good fight.
Yeah, your big upsets like Florida. You had Wisconsin losing and things like that. So it was like, you got some of the March Madness stuff, not a lot. You got a taste of it, but a lot of it was just really good basketball, and I think I could appreciate that. I did enjoy this tournament more than I enjoyed last year's.
That's where I'm at. I was like, I don't think from your like casual to like your like only turns it in for March Madness person probably enjoyed this tournament, because there was one crazy upset with High Point beating Wisconsin. After that, the upsets were like a Power 5 team beating a different Power 5 team. It wasn't anything craziness or whatever, but I think the level of basketball we got was leaps and bounds above what we normally get. There was incredible game after incredible game after incredible game for the most part. Even in the blowouts, there was things to watch. Like, I mean, Michigan was putting on shows. Arizona was having a lot of fun. I mean, in the Elite Eight, you have like an all-time classic with UConn and Duke. Like that'll be shown forever, and that's 2 huge brands going at it. The Illinois Iowa game was a ton of fun to watch. There was just great basketball everywhere you looked. I think this is one of the more fun tournaments for me to watch just because the level of basketball is, like you said, the best tournaments for me are give me a little bit of craziness on day one, like the opening round, and then I want chalk after that. I want my best teams playing after that. I want to see great basketball. I don't want to see St. Peter's in the Elite Eight, like getting beat by 90. Like even though Tennessee played that role this year.
Yeah.
Your Cinderella team was a Power 5 SEC 11 seed.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, I think Iowa might have like qualified there too, because I don't think anybody had a lot of high expectations for Iowa. They showed up and, I mean, put up a fight to even be towards the Final Four. Like they were with it. They were there. And so it was, I thought it was great from a basketball standpoint. You got your few highlight moments, but you didn't get a ton of great one shining moments.
Yeah.
But you have a few handful of buzzer beaters and a couple that didn't get.
And you had the Mullen shot, which was going to be a top 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Darling's layup too against Kansas for St. John's, that was great. Was it Owe that hit it for Kentucky there to stop Santa Clara from winning the game? And then, of course, there's the Tanner with Nebraska. I don't think they gave that as much time as it should have on one shining moment. That should have been you should have held on that shot just a little bit, because that thing was 95% of the way down and somehow rolled out.
Yeah.
I think one thing I wanted to bring up too is the fact that, kind of going back to the two teams, is that the coaching jobs that both of these guys did and they've done with the roster changeover, I think that it's such a new art of coaching that these guys have tapped into and written the book on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you. This is something that I've heard some chatter about and stuff, and I'm like, I'll let you know after you all give your take. I'll let you know what my take is on it. But it feels like the brands of basketball are no longer the schools. They're whatever coach is at wherever.
Yeah.
Like players are going to where the coach is versus like wanting to wear Duke or UNC or Kentucky. Like it's no longer just like the blue blood brands that are doing it. It's I'm going to go play for Dusty May or like in Michigan, or like Mark Few in Gonzaga, and then like whoever else, like whatever random school that is going to be able to pay the check. Like it feels like it's much more of the like players are following coaches rather than following a program.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely seeing that, because I mean your blue bloods are staying relatively consistently successful, right? Your Dukes, your UConns, Kansas to an extent, North Carolina, obviously they kind of fizzled out, and see what happens with their coaching change and all that stuff. But I made the point like way earlier, is that the playing field is so level now. Like let's not kid ourselves and think that Kentucky wasn't paying some players to come play with them. Let's not kid ourselves and say like North Carolina wasn't getting some love and Michigan State wasn't getting some love and things like that. A lot of these teams were getting these 5-star recruits so consistently, and it wasn't necessarily the coach. It was just kind of like, it seems like that's where the money's at, right? So then now the playing field's level, and you're still seeing these programs successful, but like it's all open source accounting now, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'll go play for Dusty May. He's going to pay his team about $10 million, $12 million, $13 million, and we're going to have a shot at a national title because he can build good rosters and he can get me to a Final Four. Hell, he's done it twice. So here we are.
Where I sit on it, to me, yeah, people are following coaches and following money, but money's going to bring you a good coach. But it's just a schoolyard pick every year. Every year is sort of like where we're going. It is like, okay, let me see if I get this guy, and this guy. Like I put these puzzle pieces together, my puzzle will be better than your. Like there's no, the art of building the program and building it up is just completely gone. It's okay. I found these superstar freshmen, and I've got these guys, a couple guys I can develop. If they stay, if they go, who cares? I can replace. Everybody's so replaceable, and nobody's doing anything wrong in this scenario. Everybody's just playing within the guidelines they've been given. Like, because this is one of the craziest stats out there, that the AAC, every player from their all second, and all third teams are in the portal. Everyone. Nobody is staying back. Yeah, because cash in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like, none of the players are doing wrong, but like how is any coach there going to figure out if he's any good? Like you don't want, it's crazy to me. Like they're gonna go follow coaches, and all you got to do as a coach is have a couple good years, and then somebody who's desperate in a power spot is going to bring you up because they're like, we the boosters are tired of spending money and not winning. We'll try something. They want your head because the
Yeah.
players are gone the next year and they can't do anything about it. Like it's one of those that it's going to be a weird cycle for the next few years till something gets put in place. But it's just a schoolyard pick every year because I think the stat right now is over half of Division I basketball players are sitting in the portal,
Yep.
and we still have 2 weeks for it to be open. Like it's just insane.
I keep waiting for the Purdue news in the portal, and so far it's just Aaron Fine.
You know what? You should be happy because Tennessee's down to 2 players.
But hold on. There now, the
Two?
portal is also got an upside for some of these teams. Like some teams want certain players to like transfer out and go find something else, so that maybe we open up a roster spot or two. Not gonna say anybody specifically, but there's a couple players I wouldn't mind seeing hitting the transfer portal and opening up some opportunities. And that, as a Purdue fan, like I hate saying that because you've grown to love certain players, but there's some players I just wouldn't mind being a part of the Purdue basketball program next year. So I'm just hitting the refresh button, waiting for that to happen.
I mean, it's wild. Like I don't know what to make of the portal now. It's so absolutely loaded right now. Like with Blackwell going, 247 has Flory Benega to Texas Tech. That's a move.
Big gut punch to
but-
Kansas right there, isn't it?
Well, that whole Kansas team is gone. Peterson's gone. Like majority of the rest of that Kansas team that played this year is no longer. Like Tiller's in the portal, McDowell, everybody. Like Blackwell being in the portal again. Like Wisconsin, that's gotta hurt. Most of the Wake Forest team is gone. Like like majority of Belmont's team is gone. San Diego State is in the portal. Like Jerry McNamara comes in. He thinks he's got a 4-star guy with Freeman, and he's in the portal already. Like most of their good players are gone. So Nanda Frew, rumor is you got to pay $3 million to even get him to consider you. Like, were you even worth $3 million? Like, it's not that great a year. I don't know. There's one guy that if you go back to his high school, I think I forget who it is. Since high school and through his 4 years of college basketball so far, he's played on 13 different schools.
Yeah, he's Pokemon in it.
I mean, if AJ Storr finds another year of eligibility, he's not going to be at Ole Miss again. He'll collect them all. I mean, a lot of the Kentucky players are gone. Like this is. I don't know if this was the intent behind the portal to get stuff like this, but
that's what I was going to bring up. I was thinking about this last night, actually, that what the intent, like what is this what we saw happening? I mean, I think we all saw maybe some turnover, but I don't think I ever in a million years would have thought that Tennessee would have literally 2 players and very possibly 1 at the end of the season. Like that's insane. I mean, right now between the Lady Balls and
can't even field a full team. Like
we can't even have a
5 players
5
between the 2.
So I just never thought it's tilted so far the other way. I was all for paying, given, I don't think that's really the question, the paying the players anymore, as much as it is putting a cap, putting some sort of restrictions around it.
Yeah.
Like I get the idea of why the portal happened because you had guys like Will Wade as a perfect example of this that has zero loyalty, just going to cash whatever the biggest check is. And so like if the coaches are going to move, and Calipari is a great example of this too, starts to get a little bit of trouble, bails out. Who gets stuck is what the punishment is the school and the players that remain. There's always been if your coach leaves, you can leave. But sometimes the timing of when those guys were leaving didn't give like Bruce Pearl didn't give any of those guys time to like. So you gotta have this portal thing, but it feels like there should be like something more than I want a bigger paycheck or I don't like the amount of playing time I got. Like there should be some kind of requirement you got to make, some kind of like burden of proof to go. Like it's for every year, if 50% of the D1 eligible players are in the portal, like no team is anywhere near the same. And if you're not transferring, you're leaving money on the table, like apparently, or you're leaving an opportunity on the table because Like poor Dwayne Brown, everybody that's going to come in around him on Tennessee is probably going to get paid more than him because he stayed around with his original deal instead of like going out and shopping it. Like at this point, I think the only fix is to go to some kind of contract, like a soccer contract issue where um, they've got that transfer portal that they use. Some such team comes in and pays the team for the opportunity to negotiate with the player or whatever. Like you're gonna have something like that. Otherwise, like I said, it's gonna be a draft every summer, and you're gonna just not even a draft. It's just like who wants to come play with me, and then the 5 best players go here, and the 5 best players go there. Like it's gonna be going to be a completely different sport
because
than
there's
it
a lot
was just a handful of years ago.
of handshake line discussions.
Yeah, like, and I get why Jay Wright and Tony Bennett just said no. Like I don't want to recruit my team, recruit my next team at the same time while I'm still trying to coach and win games. Because like every time you go through that handshake line, it's like that assistant coach talked to my best player a little too long. Like if you're a MAC team like a Miami, Ohio or whatever, like every time you went through that handshake line, if you picked up some bigger schools to go to, like it's like, oh, is he like how much more am I gonna have to pay him just to get him to stay next year? Like it's
and you have no hope. Your only hope is that you do well enough as one of these coaches to get a big boy program and then start sniping just like that you got sniped for several years. So, and it's just gonna be a vicious cycle.
Did anybody see Mike Malone coming for North Carolina?
No, not at all.
That did not get reported on enough how much of a mess that had to be. Because he was hired because every college coach they went to said no or used that offer to sign a massive deal. Like we'll get into the Tommy Lloyd thing in a minute, but to get a massive extension or whatever. And Billy Donovan said, I'm not going to talk till after the season's over. So they're like, we can't wait. We've got to have somebody in place to recruit in the portal. We can't wait till after the portal's done. So they just found the one guy that didn't really have a coaching job that had nothing to hold him up, is what it feels like to me. Not that he's a bad coach. I think the fit is going to be strange because the guy had one of the best players to have ever played basketball ever with Djokovic. And they won an NBA title, and that's credit to him for doing that. It's not like super easy to do, but it's a different game than it is, and your guys aren't as good. So I don't know how good he is at teaching, like and getting more out of guys that are going to sniff the NBA, because that's how you win the games, is you get more out of those guys than what they think is possible. But I don't know. It's going to be an interesting fit. It didn't work in football bringing in Belichick, and so I don't know if it's going to work here in basketball. I don't know. I don't know enough about Mike Malone to say this is a great hire or a bad hire.
And if he would like come in and think of himself as like a how do I say it, like a CEO kind of coach, you have to earn that spot. Like you have to earn that kind of pull, and it's not something you just walk into. So I think that's one of my biggest concerns for him. I mean, he has such little. Last time he coached in college was Manhattan. He was an assistant before he went to the Knicks as an assistant from '99 to '01. Like, it's just such a weird hire. It's not that I don't know that it's. I'm not there to say that it's bad. It's just not what I saw happening. I'm very curious to see, and I wish there's a way to find out who they called.
Well, they were like Lloyd and May both had to pull themselves out of the discussion. Apparently, McCollum wouldn't even answer the phone, which that's got to say something about where the North Carolina fans think their brand is versus where it actually is. If a guy in Iowa is not willing to pick up the phone to listen to you, or like nobody's like you're just being used as leverage, that means your brand has dropped way off, which is wild to think because they were in a championship game 5 years ago. It's shocking to me that because I was under the impression the North Carolina brand was worth more than apparently it is.
Well, Jake, you brought it up earlier because the playing field has changed so much. Like, who cares about the North Carolina blue, right? I mean, it's nobody's beating down the door. It's what happened to Indiana last year. Like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, Indiana job opens up. There are coaches are like all over beating down the door to get in just to get talked to. Same thing with North Carolina. It's just the brand doesn't mean anything anymore. It's the coach. It's like the program. It's the money the program has. It's like what they're willing to do, how they're willing to recruit, how they're willing to let the coaches operate. And then imagine going into North Carolina after watching Hubert Davis, make the tournament every year, but kind of sort of struggle, and then get ran out of town. Like, do you want that noise, or do you want to go to like Iowa and like, yeah, he's got a couple years before we're gonna have any real expectations? No, they're wanting success right off the bat. I mean, like I talk to IU fans all the time that want DeVries or whatever however the hell you say it. I don't care because I care so very little about IU sports right now. They want his head immediately because he didn't make a tournament. It's like, dude, you just went 2 straight years before him without making the tournament. It's like, start having realistic expectations. But that's what the program expects, right? So yeah, why would Ben McCollum answer the phone? Why would Tommy Lloyd, who can go international, he gets to travel the world to recruit players? Dusty May, I mean, hell, he picks people off in handshake lines because he's apparently charming and can shell out some dough, and Michigan's an institution. So who cares about your North Carolina blue anymore? Who cares about your Kentucky blue? Who cares about your Kansas?
I mean, Kansas has fallen off like player wise for a while, but it's just wild to think 5 years ago that name meant something. Like it was a big deal when because it was a big deal when Roy selected Hubert. Like, that was like the fact that they didn't go through a coaching search, and then the same thing with Duke to like Coach K with Josh, like picking out John Shire. Like, luckily that worked out. It seems to have worked out and didn't go the Hubert Davis route. But like it's and there's a tweet from forever ago when Diebler was getting hired that the Ohio State coaching search was down to Jake Diebler and Dusty May. That's got to burn. That's got to burn. That you had the guy won the job in
Michigan.
Not that Diebler's done bad, but then he goes to your biggest rival. Yeah, golly, that's incredible. To move to the next coach, I'm curious. What do y'all think about the whole Tommy Lloyd deal where he doesn't report? He doesn't have a boss. He doesn't have to report to the AD anymore.
Do any of these coaches really report to their AD?
A little bit, yeah.
Let's be honest. Like this was a discussion like in Purdue circles. Is like, does anybody really give a shit what Bobinski thinks for Purdue? No, nobody cares. He's got more sway over the football team than he does the basketball team. Like Painter's been there for 20 years. Like that's his. You could say the same thing about like Rick Barnes. I guarantee he's got a lifetime contract. I bet you he walks by his AD and flips him off on his way to his office.
Those are different. Those guys have been there Lloyd has been there 3-4 years, maybe.
Yeah, but he's been successful for 3 and 4 years, and he coaches Team USA.
Yeah, it's just shocking to me that that's like kneecapping your AD too.
If you're the AD and he just turned down North Carolina to stick around, take my kneecaps. I've got a chance at another Final Four.
Maybe, but the football coach is going to be wanting the same thing next year, and that's the sport that makes money.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the AD's got to tell the football coach to go fuck himself because Tommy Lloyd's got some pretty big pull, and I know the football program makes a lot of money, but Tommy Lloyd is the one you want to keep out of that.
Yeah, I don't know. That was just shocking to me that one, that happened, and two, they let it get out that quick. He negotiated. What's funny that signs that and then promptly gets his ass handed to him by Michigan. So I was like, "Ooh, boy, aren't you glad you don't have a boss to report to now?"
Yeah.
How
do you think that meeting goes? If you bring your team to the Final Four and then your AD's mad at you because you lost, like, go fuck yourself.
It's not just you lost. It's you lost by 30. Getting 30 piece, getting 30 piece outside of the first round is
losing by 30 in the Final Four is better than getting bounced in the Elite Eight, Sweet 16, round of 32 or 64.
Yeah, but shooting myself in the foot versus shooting myself in the chest is, I'm still getting shot. Like, it's not fun either way.
Yeah. But one you could throw a Band-Aid on, and the other one, chances are you're not going to make it.
Yeah. My point is, you still got shot and it still hurts. Like, there should be some pain there.
Yeah. Any season that doesn't end in a national title sucks.
It's embarrassing. And I'm saying this as a Tennessee fan, and I had a lot to say. getting beat by 30 that late in the tournament, it should be a fireable offense. No, it's inexcusable.
Hold on. If Matt Painter can survive FDU, Tommy Lloyd can survive losing by 30 in the Final Four. It's like, let's just get it out there. I don't care. If Purdue would have made the Final Four this year and they would have gotten 30 piece by Michigan, you know what? I'd been like, I'm glad we made a Final Four because at least it ended in Indianapolis and they went out on their shield, right? But it's Final Four is the ticket. That's where you want to wind up. You want to cut down a neck. You want to have that moment. You want to hang the Final Four banner at the very least. But every year that doesn't end in a national title sucks. It just sucks. Trust me, I've been doing it for 42 years. It sucks.
That's just fun. I don't know. I just
40.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
43. I can now officially say 43 years.
That's
shit.
I'll stand by it. Getting 30 piece after the first round is inexcusable and should be a black mark on their record. It should never be forgotten. Not that Arizona ended up losing by 30, but they were down by 30 at one point. That's unreal to me. And that's why it's like one of those. Michigan went ice cold. If they hit those threes, I think they get up 20-30 on UConn, and I don't think UConn has much to say about it. But that's my biggest reason for wanting to get it out of football stadiums, because something is going wrong there. I mean, Dusty May, I don't know if every coach does this, but the only one I've ever heard and saw official do it, like practice at their football stadium to kind of get used to it. Like, it didn't pay off in the championship, but it paid off in the first game.
Mm-hmm. Can I offer a suggestion? Is that Final Four sites need to be in locations that also have like a NBA arena near it, so that they could hold the Final Four in a football stadium, say Indianapolis, where you're going to sell out and you have 4 schools buying for 70,000 tickets. And then your national title game, once the butthurt fans of the other 2 schools have lost, they, just go back home while the 2 championship teams go just a half a mile down the road to Gamebridge and watch the finals match in an actual basketball arena. I think that would be beautiful. Like Detroit, for example, is going to host the Final Four next year. Imagine just going down to the Pistons arena.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Little Caesars? Is that where they play? Because I know that's where the Red Wings play. So I'm assuming that's where the Pistons play. But just a quick little jaunt down to Little Caesars arena, and now you're in an actual basketball court with 15 and 15 fans that want to actually watch their team. So that's just my suggestion.
I have long said that I will pay double the ticket price if I can watch it in whatever the current price is. I will pay double it if I can watch it in a basketball arena.
Yeah.
Because if it's just a money thing and you're selling tickets to make money, I'll double the ticket price. People still go. It's not one of those things. I hate the fact that your biggest 2 games of the year or 3 games of the year are in something that none of the players have played in this year during the year. It's a totally different thing. It's even on all sides, which is fine. But why do you want offense puts butts in seats? So why do you want to try to make it harder on the points to happen? Because I think the shooting goes better in a basketball arena because it's just guys are more comfortable there. You don't see not 17 levels of seats and all that.
I know, I saw all the pictures and all the posts and stuff like that, and I was just fondly reminiscing on my time in Phoenix, where we bought upper level seats and bitched about calls that we couldn't see.
Man, they've got to do something about the officiating. I know we've harped on it before, but in this tournament, it was god awful on the whole. Back to the Final Four, there was a massive play call there with Braylon Mullins got trapped, dragging his pivot foot everywhere, and which should have been Illinois ball with a chance to go down by 2, I think. Instead, it gets flipped to 6, with a minute or 2 left, like that. As absolutely massive call that you've got to watch. And that's just one that sticks out of my head. There's several that look like Elliot Cadeau took 17 steps on before he lobbed it off the glass to in the Arizona game. It's just I get the gather step. We put the gather step in to make it easier on the refs, just like we've changed the charge block call to make it easier on them. But that like those have got to be fixed, like, because those are massive moments that change games. And it's you've got to be looking at it. Can't be out there like CB Buckner and just not making up a story in your head of what happened. That's the guy not touching first base. But and then the reviews. Somebody's got to do something about like the goaltending. You need to be able to review like mark it and come back to it. Any of those slight judgment calls, you got to be able to, just like we do with the 3-point arc, mark it and then come back and look at it. Because they're like, not that it changes everything, but like in the Tennessee game, that the start of the run was the and one Yaxel got that shouldn't have been an and one because I think Roddy Gale put it in. And there's all sorts of ones that went the other way too. I don't know. Something's got to be done. And this was, I think, one of the more embarrassing shows as the officials, because also I'm going to pitch this at halftime. Each ref gets their own room and they don't get to talk. They're changing at half at how it's called because they're talking to each other. That shouldn't be allowed. So just put them in their own little penalty box somewhere and just don't let them talk, and then let them come back out there and call the game the same. Because it felt like every game I watched, they went in at halftime. Because halftime is, for some reason, we extend it by 10 minutes in the tournament. They went in there and they used that extra 10 minutes to, well, it's getting too rough. It feels like it's out of hand, or we got to control how many hands are on the ball, like stuff like that, and then come out and completely change how the game's being called. I mean, even in the title game, it flipped how they went from touch fouls to no touch foul. Like it's not, it all went one way. It's just every game felt like they changed how they were calling it at halftime.
Yeah,
that's my old man rant. Just put them in 3 corners and don't let them talk. You don't have to let people.
I've never thought about that. That's an interesting idea. I want to have to chew on that. It makes sense.
Go get in the concession line, buy yourself some chicken fingers.
Yeah,
that's right.
You go your way and then let them come back. So that it was just blatantly obvious that's what was happening this year.
Yeah, well, is it time? Is it time for us to announce?
Yeah.
I guess we need to announce some winners.
That's right.
Yep.
So the overall winner is Dom Bauer. He took it with it came down to the tiebreaker, because him and Jesse Talk Sports, I'm sorry, Jesse Talk Sports, both ended up with the same amount of points with Michigan as your champion, but Dom King got just a few points closer on the tiebreaker, so Dom Bauer got a few more points closer on the tiebreaker, so he ends up taking home the prize. Me and the Winware guys will be reaching out to get you your stuff. And then for the Final Four version of this, for your 50% off pick, or 50% off code, I'll cut KR's picks 10. That is our guy, and I will be trying to find you, but DM me any social, comment on YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Yell at me in some funny name, and I will send you your code. That way you can get some nice Winware stuff for half off.
There you go.
Nice.
That's all I got.
Good
That's
deal.
all our winners.
Congratulations. Your brackets were great. Must be nice.
Yeah. Because I was hanging in until the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Or no. Yeah. Yeah, that's when things got sour for me on my bracket pools. Because I was ranking towards the top of both of them and feeling pretty good. And then the Elite Eight happened. And
my bracket was perfect Thursday morning at 9:00.
Yeah.
Nothing can go wrong there. What's funny to me everybody, like the top 10 or 11 all had Michigan, but the guy that finished in 15th, NDAM's picks, finished in 15th. It means he did really well, except he picked Purdue to win. So maybe if he doesn't pick Purdue to win and keeps doing his other things, he probably does pretty well. To finish that high up and not have your champion make the Final Four is impressive to me. Just like it goes the top 11 at 12.
Yeah.
Then I had Michigan winning. Then the Kyle KR had finished right below them with UConn, and then he's there with Purdue. So like he must have did very well with every other game. Just Purdue let him down. So take your anger out on Sam. We'll blame him for that. NDA.
Yeah, because I have any control of what Purdue's done their entire existence.
It's better than me. I mean, nobody picked Tennessee. So
hey, I just gotta say
take good advice.
The last team that beat the national champions was the Purdue Boilermakers. So by default, we should be able to hang a national title banner. Well, saying.
Duke also beat them at their house.
Yeah, well, they weren't the last one.
Oh wait, somebody did pick Tennessee. I'm sorry, you did not do well. Wonder why.
Yeah.
What poor decision making.
We had somebody pick Sienna. So, which, you know what? They about took Duke down, so that might have. But yeah, that's just unfortunate for you. I'm sorry. Picking Tennessee is never a good idea in basketball.
Rumor is Sienna still hasn't rested any of their starters.
That's right.
One of them gone to Syracuse with their coach, and he hadn't stopped playing.
Yeah. It looks like Coach is pretty sour about his bracket, so we better go cheer him up.
Okay,
great.
y'all know we'll have.
Take care, y'all.
So, yeah.